Hello everybody and welcome along to a live GCN Facebook video. We are in MdD in Corvara specifically, ready for the Maratona de les Dolomites tomorrow. Myself and Matt, plus a very special guest. Very busy, as you can imagine, Sir Bradley Wiggins, so he's only going to be with us for the matter of 1 minute. So we're going to get what we can in to start with. First of all, Brad, your thoughts on the Maratona tomorrow? I understand you've never done it before.
Yeah.
First ride back as well.
It is. So I've done about 12 hours on the bike this year. So but I'm quite fit. So I think it shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to try and do the middle one, which is 100k.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to do the same.
Everyone was making me feel bad for doing the 100k.
Us too.
But then I spoke to Paolo Bettini, and if it's good enough for Paolo Bettini, I thought.
Well, it's 3,500 metres of elevation.
Yeah, and I think it's still going to take at least 4.5 hours just to do that.
I reckon.
So I think that's enough.
The short one.
So I'm going to do that middle one, because the long one, I mean, you're looking at 7 hours at least. I'm 90 kilos at the moment, so I think it's going to be a bit of a slog. And I've seen the first climb as well out of the village here, and it's not easy to start the day off.
So you don't know much about the course at all?
I know a couple of the climbs from racing the Giro and stuff. Obviously the Jow is, if I do the middle one, we miss the Jow, which is pretty nice, because that's quite a tough climb.
Yeah, we've never done it. We've always deliberately steered clear.
And the weather not looking great, so obviously there's a chance of rain at the top, and I'm done with descending in the rain, cold hands and legs and stuff. So I think safe option for the middle one. If it's really bad tomorrow, I'll just do the 50k. Because I don't have to anymore.
You can choose, can't you?
So
you're on a brand new bike, because we're in the Pinarello Lounge.
Yeah.
Your hour record bike just behind you, but you've got a brand new bike for tomorrow.
Well, I've got Fausto, obviously, but sort of, I would say, lifelong supporter, but obviously I won the Tour an hour, and as you've seen with the bike here and stuff, so, you know, he's a good mate, and he said, would you come and do it? I said, as long as I have a new F10, I'll come and do whatever you want me to do Fausto. So I got a new bike out of it.
Very nice.
So, right, yeah.
Right, one more question before you go. Have you come down to compact chain sets yet? Are you still
No, I've actually gone back to long cranks. That's the only change I've made.
No, but the chainring size, you're down to 30?
No, I'm still 39, come on. You know, I've been, for the last 6 months, I've been riding around on one of Sean Yates' old bikes with 180 cranks on 54 chainring. So I thought, you know, I've on an F10, I've got to at least keep the long cranks, and I'm still on the normal chain set, yeah.
So what's at the back?
29.
29, that's
so,
an interesting
yeah.
ratio, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad, looking forward. Thanks for coming and chatting to us.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you on the grid tomorrow.
Great show.
Cheers.
Love watching it.
Cheers, mate.
All right, well,
Help yourself to some cheese.
To
Bit of
Brad.
cheese.
Bit of mozzarella there, mate. Or an olive.
As I said, he's a very busy man. He's got to get himself off now and prepare for the Maratona tomorrow.
Gotta go, thanks.
Feel free to ask us
Cheers.
your questions about the Maratona coming up
Right,
tomorrow.
there's your olive.
We will also be discussing the Tour de France Stage 1, which is very interesting, very exciting, and also very intriguing. So if you've got any questions about that, please leave them underneath the video that you're watching at the moment. We'll answer as many as we possibly can over the next 30 minutes or so. First of all, though, Matt, we are here in the MdD region.
We are.
We have to say thank you to the Pinarello Lounge, which is in the hour record bike here. We've also got to the side the hour record bike of Miguel Indurain from many years ago, and a whole host of other bikes as well, including Chris Froome's Tour de France winning Pinarello Dogma F8.
You can just feel the heritage, can't you?
Yeah, it's
seeping
quite incredible.
Into your pores.
It's quite incredible coming here. Anyway, as Brad mentioned, we are doing the Maratona de les Dolomites tomorrow. There are 3 options available for this event, aren't there? The short one being 55 kilometres, which always sounds very tempting, doesn't it? The medium route being 105 kilometres, and then the longer route is a little over 140 kilometres, I think, but 53.5 kilometres of that are climbing, and it totals over 4,000 metres, so it really is quite brutal. 10,000 entrants. We're going to be on the start line first thing tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m.
Number 68, number 69.
Yeah, I managed to get number 69, which I was quite pleased about.
Yep.
So, first question, Matt,
Far
is
away,
going to
then.
come from me to you
I didn't
as
expect
we
this.
go through the live questions that are coming in. What gearing are you using for tomorrow?
Well, I've tried to keep this under my hat, but the
I know you hid your bike.
Yeah, I hid my bike. I actually put a fake inner ring on to kind of throw people off my scent. But ultimately, for tomorrow, I'm going to be using a 36 on the front with a 28 tooth on the back, and I think that should seem me right. I think.
Yeah, I've gone for something similar, 36. I think I'm on a 32 tooth at the back. I didn't tell you, I also hid my bike, or at least a back wheel. so I have got greater gear rating. We've been long discussing our own personal strategy for the Maratona tomorrow. We think we're going to do the medium route. We would love to do the long route.
We've got a busy day, haven't we?
We have got a busy day, so we've got to be in the centre in Corvara for the finish. So we are going to go for the medium route just through time constraints. But that is still a very challenging course. So you start with the Campolongo, which is what Brad just said he's had a look at a little bit earlier today when he arrived. You then go on to the Paso Pordoi, which is the most used Dolomite climb at the Giro d'Italia. Been a Cima Coppi climb actually for quite a few times. 33 hairpin bends on that one. You then go on to the Paso Sella, then the Gardena, then you descend back down into Corvara, and that is where the short route riders will finish. And then after that, we are heading on a slight bit of almost flat terrain before we get to the Valparaiso, which will be the longest climb for us tomorrow. And it's pretty much downhill all the way to the finish then, barring the wall, the Muro.
Well, we've been here for the week. We've had a wonderful week. The weather's been interesting, but we've made a few videos that will be on GCN very, very soon. But Dan and myself attempted the Strava record up the Muro de Chat, and we pretty much hit it cold. I led you out the first 250 metres, nearly blew you off my wheel, but somehow you came round me. On the big ring, managed 13th place.
Yeah, happy with that.
And you were fastest on the day, that very day. You were the fastest rider in the world on the Muro de Chat. That's going to be featuring as the final climb in the Maratona del Dolomites.
I'm blushing, but I did regret staying on the big ring. 52, by the way.
I was looking
next time I make an attempt,
I thought you were going to snap the chain.
Firstly, I will go into the small ring. Secondly, I'm going to get Si to lead me out.
Good move,
Right, some questions coming in underneath the live video that we're doing at the moment. A couple of people asking about mineral waters and who's drunk the most beer. Equal, I would say, at the moment.
I think, well, if we top things up from the beginning of the week, I think we're pretty much, well, I wouldn't say neck and neck. I think you might be just in front, but just 1 or 2 mineral waters, I think, this week. Yeah.
Niall McGear, he's doing an Everest challenge and thinking of changing his gears to 1142 on a 5034. Wow, that's like a 1x cassette with a compact chain set for his knees. Any problems that you would know of with this setup?
It just needs a very long chain. I know that.
Oh yeah, that's a huge. I mean, you can get away with that, of course, with a 1x on single chainring at the front, but with a double chainring, I think I'm going to have to confer to Si at a later date to find out whether that's going to work. But it does sound like that could be potentially quite problematic. So tomorrow in the morning, 10,000 riders, as we said, lining up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
I've set my alarm ready for 4:30, Dan.
Yeah,
breakfast at 5.
It is quite brutal. So we arrived here on Sunday night. Monday was a beautiful day, but since then the weather has been quite changeable.
It's mountain weather. I mean, you kind of expect that when you come to the Alps or the Dolomites, even the Pyrenees. It can be quite changeable. But it's been a fantastic week, isn't it, so far? And it's going to be, the cherry on the cake is going to be the race tomorrow. But I believe it's raining right now outside, but the weather is going to be okay, if a little bit chilly. So we're going to have to sort of dress for the weather, aren't we? We're going to be stripping stuff off, putting stuff on.
That is what I was going to ask you, because tomorrow, although the weather does look quite kind in terms of rain and precipitation, it is going to be very cold on the start line, isn't it? Around about 3 or 4 degrees at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. Of course, once you get to the top of the Campolongo and then the Pordoi, which is even higher in terms of altitude, I mean, we're going to get there around 8 a.m. It's not going to have really warmed up by that point. So how do you choose what clothing to use at the start of the race? Because whilst you don't want to be too cold at the start, you also don't want to be too hot at midday.
I mean, we did, well, I did a recent video on this, didn't we? That was filmed here about how to pack your pockets for the Maratona or a Sportif. And I think what you have to kind of put to one side, Dan, is not worrying about carrying the excess weight. For the sake of 400 or 500 grams worth of extra clothing, that could be the difference between finishing the Maratona and actually having to get off. So, looking at the weather conditions tomorrow, I think firstly do your homework, know the weather conditions, but also pack for all eventualities, because sometimes the weather forecasts aren't right. So I'm going to be wearing, or have in my back pocket, some gloves, a thick rain cape, wearing arm warmers over the knees, and a gilet as well. So a thick rain cape, gilet, gloves over the knees, and obviously my essential spares. I won't do the wrap right now, but you can see that online.
That is quite a lot. I think you might start to overheat later on in the day.
Yeah, but I can take it off and put it on.
Thankfully, we're going to be riding around with a motorbike occasionally next to us, so we can take clothes out and put clothes back in. But I do not envy the people that have to choose their clothing choice for tomorrow, because it could go from 3 degrees up to potentially 20 at some point in the day. We've got a question from David Shergold asking about can Geraint Thomas win the Tour de France. Once we finish talking about the Maratona, we will go on to Tour de France Stage 1, the 14-kilometre time trial in Dusseldorf. So make sure you keep sending your questions in about that. Personally, I don't think G's going to win the Tour this year. It will all be for Chris Froome, I think, unless Froome crashes. We've seen a few crashes. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. Antonio Ambrosino. Hi guys, 11 by 36 doesn't look very cool on a road bike. Is that true?
I think these days it kind of does. Is that kind of sorry?
Does look cool.
Do you mean 36 at the front?
No,
11 at the back.
11:36 at the back.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's fine these days.
And that's the big thing at GCN.
I just don't. There's nothing to worry about. I mean, Brad mentioned it early on. He's riding on a bike that was owned by Sean Yates, one of Brad's heroes. And back in the day, Sean Yates was my manager, and I rode a lot of races. All we had was 39.25 back then. And
you've got bad knees now.
And I've got severely bad knees. But I don't know how. I honestly, and this is serious now, I do not know how we raced on such high ratio gears. And it basically, and the gear ratios we have now, I just think they open things out for a lot more riders. I mean, there's riders of all sorts of shapes and sizes and abilities that we've seen out in this brutal terrain, but because of the gear ratios we have now, it basically means that anybody, pretty much anybody, with obviously some training, can get over these climbs. So there's nothing to be ashamed of because you're a bike rider, you've got the tools for the job, and you're going to do it. So no shame at all about a 36.11 at all.
Yeah, I mean, we at GCN have always said that it's about enjoying riding a bike. It doesn't matter what clothing you're wearing, really. It doesn't matter the helmet you're wearing. It doesn't matter what gears you're using. If you've got a bad back, for example, it doesn't matter if you've got an upturned stem or a load of headset spaces. As long as you are out riding a bike and enjoying the sport and enjoying the hobby, that is all that matters. So if you are happy with an 11 to 36, it will have slightly big gaps between each of the cogs in terms of the cadence between each one, and you might be able to find a better way of getting that kind of range that you need for the climbs. But in terms of looks, you don't need to worry. Some people are worried about. I mean, I quite like to look good on a bike, but it doesn't matter.
We all like to look good, but yeah, don't worry about the size of your sprocket. It's all about trying to get over the hills as comfortably and as efficiently as you can.
Right, David Fitzpatrick has asked a very important question. Who's going for the best time tomorrow? Is it Dan or Matt? And what's the odds on you two? He's thinking of putting his money on Dan. Matt's looking a bit red-faced. Oh, I see. He's thinking of putting his money on me because you're looking a bit red-faced. There's no comma there, so
I'm just looking in the monitor. Yeah, I am slightly red-faced, but I'm feeling pretty fit.
We have got a strategy in place. In fact, shortly, in the next few weeks, we will be putting out a video on how to pace a sportive using a power meter. So we have come up with our own strategy because we're of fairly similar fitness levels at the moment. We've also done a recent health test, which will also feature as a part of the video that we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks.
That was an eye-opener, wasn't it? I'm just going to cut across there, Dan. You have got some big lungs, haven't you?
Oh, I didn't want to mention that.
He's got some big lungs.
That will be in the video, though. So stay tuned.
Honestly,
for my lung
he
capacity.
Hasn't stopped talking about his lungs since the health test. And do you know what? It's spoiled my week. Anyway, carry on, Dan. It's just a bit annoying.
So our strategy is we both got an FTP, a functional threshold power, our maximum hour power of around about, we think sort of 290, 300 watts, don't we? So our strategy is that on the early climbs of the day tomorrow, we're going to stick to 250. Because it's very easy to get excited, as we always say in our videos.
We are going to get excited, aren't we? Because we're privileged enough to get pretty low numbers. We're going to be right at the front of the grid. And I know, although I'm telling myself now, don't get excited, pace yourself. That's our mantra that we put in all of our videos about doing long rides. Pace yourself, go hard later on. I know that I'm probably going to give it a nudge early on and pay later. I just know.
Well, I'm going to leave you to it, because I'm fixated on my numbers and my strategy for tomorrow, and I'm going to do that.
Well,
but it would be nice to ride together.
I might have to use you as my power meter.
Well, yeah, you can do. I'll go on the numbers. You just ride next to me.
Yeah, because I mean, a little bit more about the health. I'm 5 kilos heavier than you.
Yeah.
So if you're putting out 300 watts, as we saw on the climb yesterday, I'm putting out about 315. So I might just ride slightly behind you.
Yeah, it's mainly muscle, isn't it? Your extra 5 kilos, because he is under 6 foot, as we found out in his health test.
No, it was
Matt's gutted.
At the end,
his entire life, he's told everyone he's 6 foot, but 1 metre 82, it left him a centimetre below 6 foot.
No, it's half a centimetre, and the doctor said the equipment's a little bit faulty. They're going to get it tested, so he gave me the benefit of the doubt. 6 foot.
Right. Yeah, he's going to get a second opinion. Jim Van Beesen, can you explain why lightweight riders have a harder time riding with headwinds? Well, it's about absolute power, really, isn't it? So a lightweight rider will climb very well because, in general, their power-to-weight ratio will be very good and they will beat the heavier riders. However, on the flat, the things that hold you back are mainly wind resistance with a very small amount of rolling resistance. And a lightweight rider, although they're often smaller, they can't get themselves... The ratio between their sort of frontal area compared to the weight on the climbs is not the same. So a bigger rider can get themselves nice and low on a bike, can't they, and not push too much wind out of the way, and therefore their absolute power gives them the greater speed overall.
Yeah, that's correct. And but conversely, the steeper the climb, the more power a heavier rider has to put out to go at the same speed as a lighter rider. So basically, the lighter riders get their own back in the climbs, like Nairo Quintana, although Nairo Quintana is a pretty reasonable rider on the flat as well, as an exception. But generally speaking, it's, as you say, absolute power, it's down to physics and mathematics, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always worth mentioning that, isn't it? That at home and at cafes and in club rooms, when cyclists are talking about the pro riders, they'll often look at somebody like Nairo Quintana and say, well, he's not a very good time trialist, because they compare him to Tom Dumoulin, for example. And they'll say the same thing about sprinters. Mark Cavendish can't climb. That is not true at all. Mark Cavendish won Milan-San Remo, and we both know that to get to the finish of Milan-San Remo over the Poggio and the Cipressa before it, you've got to be a seriously good climber. He's just not very good in comparison to Chris Froome in the mountains, or Alberto Contador, or Nairo Quintana.
Well, Cav is a pure sprinter, isn't he? Basically?
Yeah, and Nairo Quintana is not very good at time trials in comparison to Tony Martin and Tom Dumoulin, etc. So they are very accomplished in those disciplines, just not compared to the best in the world.
Dan, I have to cut across you there, ever so slightly, so apologies for that, but we have a caption competition. Now, if you can give us a pretty good caption for this particular photograph, sadly, as you are about to see, it's a photograph of me undergoing some laboratory tests the other day. As Dan alluded to a few moments ago, we had to undergo medical tests to basically get a doctor to say that we are healthy enough to ride the Maratona, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think that's a really good thing, but that's another complete subject. But there's a rather unfortunate photograph of me doing an ergo test, so we're going to ask for your comments, and the best of which will win a GCN t-shirt.
Yeah, if you'd like to hold that up. We've also got some more swag to give away later on. GCN Camelback water bottles and GCN casquettes that you can see here as well. So get your captions in below this video, and our friend to the side here, Manolo, will choose the best caption later on, and we will announce a winner.
Just a quickie though, the olives, cheese and ham aren't a part of the prize list.
OK, so almost 8:30 local time. Probably time to try and...
Sorry, man, I just want a bit of cheese.
Probably time to now have a look
really
at
nice.
Tour de France Stage 1. A very interesting stage, a 14-kilometre time trial around the German city of Dusseldorf.
It was a cracker, wasn't it?
Yeah, favourite at the start of the day, Tony Martin, wasn't able to pull the win off, and therefore the first yellow jersey in his home country. Were you surprised about that?
A little bit. We were at a cafe earlier on speaking to some... We're doing a bit of some stuff at the expo, the Maratona, and some German people came up and said, who do you think is going to win us? And I was convinced Tony Martin was going to do it. In the World Championship, Stripes, on a brand new Canyon inspired by the Kraftwerk band. Simon's got a video on that particular bike. I just thought that the stars were aligned for Tony Martin, but no, it wasn't to be. We all know Geraint Thomas is a ridiculously talented bike rider, but I wonder how many people actually tipped Geraint today.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what his odds were. And it's funny, isn't it? It's a rider who we all know is absolutely superb, but I wonder how many people actually had him on their radar for this particular event. But look at the gap here. Geraint Thomas 5 seconds ahead of Stefan Kung, but the first two riders, Stefan Kung and Thomas, consummate pursuiters, both with real track pedigree as well. But a superb ride, and Geraint must have really taken a few risks, because as we saw, God, there were some casualties.
Yeah, there were. We'll get onto those in a few moments' time, but we both speculated that perhaps Team Sky riders wouldn't take too many risks around the corners, but given how many of them finished in the top 15 of the classification for the day, you wonder how fast they did go around the corners. But an amazing performance from Geraint Thomas. He is the first yellow jersey of the 2017 Tour de France. Could take it for a few days.
Definitely.
But there were some standout performances from some of the sprinters. Firstly, Marcel Kittel of Team Quickstep. What a ride from him. I mean, he's a double junior world champion at the discipline, has since gone on to be one of the best sprinters in the world, of course, but 9th place overall, and he only lost 16 seconds to the winner on the day, that being Geraint Thomas. So has he got a chance of taking a yellow jersey in the next couple of days?
Well,
I don't think he has.
I think I think it's the first stage, or sorry, stage 2. There's a bit of a kick up to the line, which I think might... Yeah, some of the heavier sprinters might struggle.
Stage 3, yeah.
Stage 3. So yeah, there's obviously 10, 6 and 4 on the line for the next couple of stages, but I think just because we've got a bit of a kick up the line, I think it might exclude Marcel Kissel. But clearly by that, I mean he's gone on record as saying he wanted the yellow jersey on home soil in Germany, and certainly just looking at his position there, 9th, he clearly gave it absolutely everything. But still a great ride by him.
Yeah, so if we talk about other standout performances, Michael Matthews of Team Sunweb, he can pull out a good time trial pretty regularly. He finished at 19 seconds, and he's the type of rider that might not get in the top 3 and get any bonus seconds tomorrow on the flat sprint stage, but certainly could be one of the favourites for the uphill finish, which you mentioned, which comes on Monday on stage 3. Taylor Phinney, first ever Tour de France, remarkably. Of course, he crashed very heavily at the US National Championships a few years ago and took a long time to come back to the sport. It looked at a point like his career might be over. But 12th place for him. So I did an interview with him about time trialling tips just yesterday, which you could see on our channel over at youtube.com/GCN on today's post. So
he knows what he's talking about.
Good timing.
Taylor, consummate timing, but no, Taylor Phinney, you know, a really unique character of the pro peloton. Doesn't do things in the traditional sense, and when I say traditional sense, in the modern sense, I understand. I mean, you've got to watch the video, it is fascinating, but doesn't generally work to numbers. Pretty much works exclusively on feel, which is a really rare commodity in the modern peloton, but a great ride by Taylor Phinney. Good to see him back in the mix.
Yeah, right, on to the winners and losers from the day. I think we'll start with the losers, and there were a lot, weren't they? So in terms of the crashes that we saw whilst we were watching coverage, you saw Dylan Groenewegen of Team Lotto NL
How
Jumbo.
far did Dylan Groenewegen slide?
He did slide,
he slid a long way.
Like he had oil on his chamois or something. Tony Galopan of Team Lotto Soudal, he crashed as well. George Bennett, we think, crashed, just judging by the tweet that he put up earlier.
This is his tweet. I'm not going to say it all. George Bennett's tweet was F******. That was the tweet.
Yeah. Moving on.
What you will.
Primoz Roglic, who was one of the pre-stage favourites to win the first yellow jersey. So that's 3 riders from Team Lotto NL Jumbo. I wonder whether they had the wrong tyres or the tyres pumped up too hard. But 2 huge losers from the day.
I mean, stunning. This is headline stuff.
First being Jonis Aguirre, who was formerly of Movistar. He is now leading, or was leading, Bahrain Merida here at the Tour de France. He's crashed out and abandoned the race. His former teammate, though, Alejandro Valverde, who's had an incredible season so far and was going to be hugely important to Nairo Quintana to go for the Tour de France crown, crashed out, went too fast into one of the corners, hit the barriers. We haven't heard exactly what the problems are, but he didn't finish the stage.
It looked
and that's
really
it
nice.
for the Spaniard.
It was awful to see. I mean, thankfully, Eurosport was showing it didn't actually. I think we saw one slow motion replay, but the Direct Sportive was out of the car, and the way that Valverde fell, I mean, I think it's fair to say, Dan, that he just overcooked the corner. Went in a little bit hot, banked the bike right over, lost grip, but then slid into the barriers, and I think, although I'm speculating slightly, it did look as if one of his knees or his leg hit the barrier quite hard.
Yeah, it did look nasty.
But it's such a shame for Valverde. And yeah, a big dent, I think a critical dent or a potential dent to the chances of Nairo Quintana, because you know Valverde's so valuable in the mountains, and Valverde's had a great year so far. The winningest rider in the Pro Peloton with 11 wins to date. But obviously they've got 8 riders now, 7 of which are going to be riding in the service of Quintana. But no man to far up the road and give Movistar a few options. So very, very sad, and I hope that Valverde's okay as well.
Yeah, it's sad for Quintana and Movistar, but it's also sad for the race as a whole, isn't it? Because Valverde's a very attacking rider, and even if he wasn't up there with a chance of a podium,
you know he's going to animate the race.
Yeah, he would have animated the race. So
definitely.
Disappointed to see him lose out today. Let's look at the GC riders on the stage.
Dan, just before you do that, can you just pass me that beer over there, please?
Yeah, of course. We've got, of course, Chris Froome, who hasn't had the most stellar of seasons so far. It's not stellar. He hasn't won a race so far in 2017, but today he was easily the best of the GC riders. If we take a look down at his key rivals, the best of the rest in terms of the GC riders was Simon Yates of Orica Scott. 25 seconds down in 29th place. That was a really good ride. Richie Porte, who's been performing incredibly well all year and has beaten Froome at the time trial at the Dauphiné a couple of weeks ago. He was at 35 seconds. Nairo Quintana a further 1 second back. Romain Bardet of AG2R, last year's runner-up at the race, he was at 39 seconds. Contador at 42. Jakob Fuglsang, the surprise winner of the Criterium de Dauphiné, also at 42 seconds. So if you go from Porte to Fuglsang, just 7 seconds separating them. So that was a great ride by Chris Froome today.
It's a fantastic ride by Chris Froome, and I think you know his trajectory, I mean, he's been getting better and better and better, but there's been no stellar performances. He struggled with a back injury midway through, earlier in the season, which has really thrown his preparation into a real state of flux. But it was interesting to see him in the Dauphiné and how closely packed the riders were in the top 10. It was a wonderful race, the Dauphiné. But we've only done 14 kilometres of the Tour. And in the modern era, to have a buffer of 25 seconds over Yates, 42 over Contador, and as you say, 35 over Port, that's obviously, that's daylight. That's a lot of time. Yeah. And we've seen very, very narrow margins in the Grand Tours over the last few years on the mountain climbs. And we've still got a couple of big TTs to come, or one more big TT to come. I think Froome's going to win. And I think a lot of his rivals are going to be very, very worried indeed. But to take that amount of time over a very short distance is mightily impressive. And I think it also indicates a little bit about Froome's mindset. Clearly, I think Contador, Bardet, Quintana, or Quintana's certainly not especially, maybe Port, I think they rode conservatively. But you know what? I think the way Froome attacked and rode himself into the ground in the Dauphiné, I think this is mirrored here, and I think he's ridden a time trial. It's not just a physiological kind of, it's not just physiologically impressive. It's also like, do you know what? I want this Tour, and I'm going to gamble. And he's done it so far. I mean, day one, but that, over 14K, very, very impressive, and sets down a big marker.
Yeah, as you said, still a long way to go, 20 stages and well over 3,000 kilometres of racing. But that is definitely an early blow to the key rivals for Chris Froome. And whatever they say in the press, they will be looking at the results sheet this evening at the dinner table with their team and thinking that is a lot of time already to make up after 14 kilometres of the race. We have a winner of the first Caption competition for this evening. We'll get another photo up for you fairly soon. Ryan van Delft. Caption, Matt tests out GCN's latest edition, Lederhosen. Very well done. Get in contact with us on Facebook as a message, Ryan, with your address and what you won, which is a GCN t-shirt. You will have options of sizes and colours, and your address, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we possibly can.
And maybe in a subsequent Ask GCN thing, or maybe in a future GCN show, where there are pictures available of Dan Lloyd in similar attire. It's basically a massive tubic grip, wasn't it, to hold all the wires in place? But it did help.
Was, yeah. It was like for British viewers, it was like a Rabsy Nesbitt string vest.
And it took me a good 15 minutes to get it on. I just couldn't quite work where to get my arms.
Well, you didn't know where to put your head and arms.
No, I've never been wrapped in something like that before.
Anyway, back on topic. Back to the Tour de France.
Sorry, folks. Keep watching.
OJTB asked the question, could it be possible that Froome was taking it easy in the early part of the season just to dedicate all of his energy to the Tour de France?
I don't think so. But I think it's an interesting point, but I really don't think so. I think there's too much at stake. And I think when you look, I think what a lot of riders will obviously change the way they approach races, but generally speaking, the tried and tested route, especially when it delivers you 3 Tour de France wins, is generally a pretty good indicator of the way to do it. And Chris Froome started off very early. He was 6th overall in the Sun Tour, and that actually was his best result of the year so far, equalled, of course, by today's 6th place in Stage 1 of the Tour de France. But no, I think it was just one of those things that happens from time to time in a pro career. You know, nobody's pro career, none of the top riders have a career where each year they have stellar performances without injury, without problems. And this has been a difficult year for Froome, but clearly, just on today's showing, although we've still got a lot of racing still to come, he's in very, very good shape. But no, personally, I don't think he was bluffing. I just think he's gone through a difficult patch, and I think he's out the other side.
Yeah, I think we're going to get another Caption photo up for you fairly shortly, but I will go on and also answer that question. If you've watched our preview of the Tour de France, or our top 10 riders to watch out for at the Tour, you will have known that Chris Froome, before all of his previous Tour de France victories, took at least 5 wins on the run-up to it. However, this year has been the first year, I think, that he has stated he just wants to win the Tour, but also wants to win the Vuelta, which he's come close to a lot of times previous to this, but he's never stated that fact at the start of the season. So there could be something in the fact that he wanted to start slightly slower.
And also, interestingly, at the Giro, I was speaking to Dave Brailsford, and I asked him the quite a direct question. Do you think, in the modern era, any GC rider can win 2 Tours? Especially after Nairo Quintana has said he's going to go for the Giro, didn't win, and go for the Tour. Because I think going for the Giro and the Tour double, straight away, if you're going to ride the Giro, you will ride it in a way where you're kind of thinking about the Tour de France at the same time. And I think, back to the question of the person who posed, Chris Froome kind of bluffed Ryan. Maybe he has, because Brailsford said that he thinks that, yeah, somebody can do it, and it may be a rider from Team Sky. So maybe that was just...
Yeah.
Maybe there is something
it's
there.
a
Maybe he's trying to do something a little bit different.
It is a gamble saying that you're going for the double, be that Giro Tour, the Giro of Vuelta, or the Tour of Vuelta, because if you don't then win the first race, like Quintana didn't do at the Giro, it means that your goal's kind of...
It's gone.
Even though you've still got the opportunity
Well,
to win the next Grand Tour.
The same with Alberto Contador a few years. Well, he won the Giro, but was clearly too fatigued to actually perform well in the Tour de France. But it's fascinating, and we'll see how things play out over the next couple of months, won't we?
Yeah, it will be very interesting indeed. Right, we've got the next picture coming up for you now, which is me with a full-face helmet on. The reason for that will become apparent over the next couple of weeks when the video for that one is released. Leave your captions below this video, and the next winner will get a bottle and a GCN cap as well. So leave your captions below and we will pick the winner in the next 10 minutes or so. Sticking with the Tour de France, Pete Plasto has asked, when in that time trial, what kind of wattage are the pros putting out? Well, I can give you a very accurate answer, because if you go to Mark Renshaw's Twitter profile, he actually posted a picture of his Garmin at the end of the Tour de France stage today. 365 watts, I think, is what he averaged. He did finish quite far down the field, and I would hazard a guess that he probably didn't go full gas today, because he's got bigger things to come in terms of the sprints and leading out Mark Cavendish. But you can get around a Tour de France time trial within the time limit with just 365 watts.
Yeah, definitely. Mark Renshaw is here to do a job, and that's to deliver Mark Cavendish to the last 250, 200, 150 metres of the sprint stages. So there's no point in Mark Renshaw emptying the tank. But I think, as you said, you know, for a lot of people who understand power, understand what watts kind of feel like, 365 watts for kind of 12, 14 minutes is kind of punchy. And he's a rider that finished way down. So I think when we're looking at the riders, and I know increasingly more and more riders are posting their power data online, I think you'll see, although I don't know what Geraint Thomas did, but I'd imagine it's in the region of 410 or something like this. It's going to be above
I'd imagine a bit more than that. I mean,
again,
the weather
given
conditions
the
would have affected it in terms of the fact that he couldn't pedal for less. He couldn't pedal as much as he would have done on a dry conditions day. But I would guess 440-ish for that kind of duration, maybe even slightly.
I mean, G's probably watching, G. So if you just share your power data with us, just get in touch.
Yeah, he must be watching now, I'd imagine. After the press conference, he's probably got very little to do now. Catherine Burton's asking, are we hungry because she's cooking chana masala at Chalet La Flou on the hill above La Perla?
I am absolutely starving.
I'm starving as well.
I'm just nibbling on this piece of parmesan. It's really nice, but it doesn't quite hit the spot. I need something more wholesome, something a bit carb-based. I don't know. It's still tasty.
It's literally about 8 hours until we have to wake up ready for the Maratona. We're really looking forward to it.
I might just stay up.
OK, a couple more questions before we wrap up this live video for today.
Stay up.
Trying to find one, actually.
What?
Diane Crabtree, will Valverde crashing out today hamper Quintana's Tour de France?
I think we've already touched upon this, but I think it will do. I think undoubtedly Alejandro Valverde is a talismanic figure within the Movistar team, and he was going to be a key lieutenant. He's one of the few, although they've got Andre Amador, a resurgent Carlos Betancourt in the team, Herrada's there as well. So Movistar have got a ridiculously strong team. Probably one of the only teams to rival Team Sky in terms of depth. But with Valverde out of the mix, they're going to be on the back foot a bit. They're going to have to kind of reconfigure a little bit. But, you know, Nairo Quintana is still a young man, but a very seasoned campaigner. And but, yeah, I think it is going to affect the team. And only time will tell. But I guess now we'll kind of never know. But it is a shame to lose such an aggressive, kind of swashbuckling type of rider this early in the Tour. Yeah,
Betancourt is a dark horse, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
I mean, he has finished right up there at a Grand Tour before. He was the best young rider at the Giro d'Italia a few years ago. We know he's had problems with his weight over the last couple of years and been very inconsistent. But we also know he's incredibly talented. He had a horrible start to his season a few years ago and then went on to win Paris-Nice just after that point.
I think he's one of those kind of enigmatic figures in pro cycling, isn't he? And I know he's got himself into trouble a few times, going off the radar when he was riding for AG2R, just disappeared for a few months. But there's no doubting his talent, and clearly he's in a good place right now psychologically as well. So Movistar have placed their faith in him. And we commentated live, of course, in the Hammer Series when he shredded the opening day of the Hammer Series and looked good. I don't know whether that's necessarily the best indicator of riding in the high mountains, but clearly, for him to get a berth in the Movistar team, they've clearly got faith in him, and Betancourt is, at or at least his best at the moment.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a very interesting first stage of the Tour de France. As we said, stage 2 tomorrow looks set to finish in a big bunch sprint, and then stage 3 on Monday does finish on a very small climb, the sort of climb that might well suit Peter Sagan or Michael Matthews or even Philippe Gilbert. Yeah. That stage actually starts in the town where he was born, so he'll be very motivated for that particular day. Let's wrap up the Tour de France for now. We're going to wrap up this video, in fact, in the next few minutes. Back to some Sportive and Gran Fondo related questions.
Good stuff.
Arthur Kitzberger says he's got a Sportive in 2 weeks' time. It starts off with the climb, and after that, it's completely flat. Is there any tips for that combo?
I would still go steady on the climb. But you can...
I'd go a bit harder on the climb, I think.
I'd go slightly steady on the climb and really nail it on the flat. I mean, I'm sorry we've gone at odds here, but I think it's quite an unusual kind of like course profile, isn't it, to have it? But I guess you are right. It depends on the kind of rider you are, and it depends how much... I think it's about understanding yourself as a rider and being really honest with yourself and looking at the kind of training you've done en route to the event, the distance of the event, the kind of shape you're in, if you're using a power meter and you know your numbers. But I think Dan's kind of right. If you attack the first climb, or 6 or 7 climbs, you could push on that and have a kind of easy. I would go cautious.
Close to my left descent towards the end. Good thing is solo effort. Okay, we have got a winner for the second caption competition, that being this photo, which will hopefully appear on your screens in the next few moments. The winner I am going to choose is James Robert Kemp. So well done. He's put, honest, it's an e-bike. Love e-bikes.
I'm a big fan.
We've done a few bits of testing on e-bikes over the last couple of years, and I completely rate them. In fact, we met a couple from the Netherlands, didn't we, the other day? One of whom, no, actually they were from South Africa, but living over in Saudi Arabia somewhere. The guy is very into his cycling and very, very fit, but he goes out training with his wife because she's not so into it, but likes to join him occasionally, and she's got an e-bike. Great.
It's great. It really levels the playing field. And he was saying, he's a reasonably fit guy. Obviously, his wife ordinarily couldn't keep up with him on a ride like that, but with an e-bike, she can happily ride alongside. And this, I think it just levels the playing field, opens things out. But the thing is, as well, if you go on an e-bike and you kind of get bitten by the cycling bug, you might actually then think, do you know what? I might start trying to get fitter as well. So I think it goes both ways. It's not just a replacement for the bike. It could be a stepping stone to getting yourself fit as well. And also the other way when you lose fitness. So I just think they're great. And they fit in, they're exciting. And I think they're going to encourage more and more people to participate in cycling.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that they're here to stay, whether you like it or not, Definitely. As are disc brakes, another controversial subject in the world of cycling. Anyway, well, we thank you very much for joining us for our live video here at La Perla in the Pinarello Lounge in Corvara in Alta Badia. We need to go and get something to eat before the marathon tomorrow, which starts in a matter of hours now. We'll be back with another live video very soon, I am sure. But for now, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from Matt.
It's ciao for now. That just happened.
Yeah, that wasn't even scripted.
No, I just made that up. Ciao for now.